At a family reunion, I caught my husband kissing my cousin. She smiled, we've been together for years. Shocked, my husband whispered, please don't make a scene. I replied calmly, the scene starts when everyone watches the video I just sent. They turned pale as phones started buzzing around the room. Family reunions are supposed to be about catching up, eating too much, and dealing with that one relative who always drinks too much and starts drama. I never thought I'd be the one at the center of it. I never thought I'd catch my husband kissing my cousin in my aunt's kitchen. I never thought she'd smile at me like it was funny and say, we've been together for years. And I definitely never thought my husband would look me in the eye and whisper, please don't make a scene. Too late. Because the scene had already started the moment I hit send on the video I just recorded. The one I sent to every single person in the house. Phones started buzzing. Conversations stopped. People checked their screens, eyes widening, mouths dropping open. Then, the murmurs started. And then, chaos. Jason and I had been married for 8 years. We met in college, built a life together, got a house, had plans. Sure, he'd been acting different lately, staying out late, keeping his phone close, suddenly working out at 5 a.m., but I chalked it up to stress. Brianna was my cousin. Not my closest cousin, but still. We grew up together. She had always been the pretty, charming one, the one who could get away with anything because she had a smile that made people forgive her. Turns out, that included my husband. The reunion was at my Aunt Denise's house, a huge place near the water. She loved throwing these get-togethers, and the whole family showed up, uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone. It was loud, crowded, full of people laughing, arguing, eating. And apparently, it was the perfect place for my husband and my cousin to sneak off to the kitchen. I had gone in to grab a bottle of wine. That's it. I was in a good mood, ready to pour a glass and go back outside. I didn't expect to see Jason pressed up against Brianna, kissing her like he loved her. At first, my brain couldn't process it. Like I was seeing it, but it wasn't real. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I was misunderstanding. But then his hand slid into her hair. She leaned into him. It was real. And I had my phone in my hand. I hit record before I could think about it. And I didn't stop. Jason's hand was still in Brianna's hair when I finally spoke. My voice was too calm. Wow. Really? At a family reunion? They jumped apart. Jason's face went pale. Brianna? She smirked. Like this was funny. Like I was the one overreacting. Then, she said it. The sentence that ended everything. We've been together for years. 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 I felt like someone had punched me. Jason finally moved, stepping toward me with his hands up, voice low. Please, don't make a scene. I just stared at him. Like I didn't know him. Like he wasn't the man I had married, built a life with, shared a bed with. He was standing there, asking me not to make a scene. I nodded. Then, I hit send. The video went to every family member in the house. Every single one. It took seconds. Phones buzzed. One person checked theirs. Then another. Then another. I watched the exact moment people saw it. The air changed. The murmur started. Then, my aunt's voice cut through everything, oh, hell and oh. Then? Chaos. My Aunt Lisa, Brianna's mom, was the first one to scream. You were sleeping with your cousin's husband? In my house? Brianna rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. Jason's mother clutched her chest like she was about to faint. My brother, Eric, cracked his knuckles. My cousin Marcus yelled, WorldStar, and started recording. Jason turned to me, voice low. We need to talk about this in private. I laughed in his face. Private? Oh, Jason. We are way past private. Then, my mom, sweet, church-going, never heard a fly mama, picked up her wine glass and threw it at Brianna's face. Red wine, right in her hair. I almost cheered. But that was just the start. Because when one secret comes out in a black family gathering, every secret comes out. Aunt Denise turned to Brianna. Wait. Weren't you dating that lawyer in Atlanta? Brianna shrugged. Yeah, so? Me, so, that means you were cheating on him too? Then, out of nowhere, my cousin Ashley said, oh, I knew something was up. I saw Jason at a hotel a few months ago with some woman, but I thought it was a coworker. I swear my soul left my body. Jason had the nerve to say, it wasn't like that. Then Jason's best friend, Greg, sighed. Look, man, just tell the truth. I been new. The betrayal. Jason finally looked at me. Can we go somewhere and talk? Please? Brianna had the audacity to scoff. Yeah, can y'all stop being dramatic? I snapped. Dramatic? You've been sleeping with my husband for years and I'm the dramatic one? And then? My brother swung. Jason hit the floor. And it wasn't over yet. Jason hit the floor so hard that the whole house went silent for a second. Even the kids, who had been running around screaming outside, stopped. Jason groaned, clutching his jaw, and before he could get up, my brother, Eric, moved again. I jumped in before this turned into an actual crime scene. Eric, don't. He's not worth it. Eric looked at me, then back at Jason, breathing hard. Nah, he deserves worse. Brianna finally moved, kneeling down next to Jason, touching his face like she actually cared. Are you okay, baby? Baby. She called him baby right in front of me. Before I could respond, my Aunt Lisa lost it. You're standing over my nephew's wife's husband, calling him baby? You better get your stupid ass up before I slap you into next week. And then? Jason laughed. A low, bitter, almost delusional laugh. Like the world had finally cracked, and he was realizing there was no getting out of this. He sat up, rubbing his jaw, and shook his head. You know what? Fine. Let's do this. Let's get it all out. Then he looked straight at me. You want to know why? Why I cheated? Why I did this? No one said a word. Even Brianna seemed nervous. Jason got up slowly, eyes locked on mine. Because you stopped caring, that's why. You were always too busy with work, too busy with your family, too busy with everything else to even notice me. My heart stopped for a second. Not because I believed him. But because this wasn't new. This was the excuse. The same one every cheater pulls out when they're cornered, when they have nothing else to blame but themselves. Brianna? She nodded. He's right, you know. You pushed him away. That was it. I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was inches from her face. You really think you get to stand here and blame me? You think sleeping with my husband for years makes you the victim? You think sneaking around, lying, betraying me makes you special? She opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. You're not special, Brianna. You're just the next woman he's going to cheat on. Jason's jaw tensed. You don't know what you're talking about. I laughed. Oh, Jason. If you'll cheat with her, you'll cheat on her. Something flickered in Brianna's expression. Like, for the first time, she realized it too. And then? Greg, Jason's so-called best friend, sighed again. And said, you should probably tell them, bro. Tell us what? Jason glared at him. Greg held up his hands. Nah, don't look at me like that. You already lost. Might as well get it all out now. Something was wrong. I could feel it. Jason looked at Brianna. And just like that, her face dropped. No, she said, shaking her head. No, you didn't. Jason didn't say a word. He didn't have to. Brianna stepped back. How long, she whispered. Still, Jason said nothing. I took a step forward. How long what? Brianna's breathing got shaky. How long have you been sleeping with someone else? The entire house reacted at once. Gasps. Shouting. One of my cousins in the back yelled, I knew it. Jason looked down. And that was all the answer we needed. Brianna staggered back like she had been punched in the gut. I should have felt bad for her. I didn't. Welcome to the club. Aunt Lisa, who had been holding back this entire time, snapped. Oh, so you a hoe on both sides? More yelling. More chaos. I couldn't even process it. I just stared at Jason. The man who had stood in front of me this morning and kissed me goodbye. The man who had begged me to trust him when I had doubts. The man who had looked me in the eyes and told me I was the love of his life. And here he was. A liar. A cheater. A coward. Brianna wiped at her eyes, then suddenly turned to me. Are you happy now? The audacity. I laughed. Happy? Brianna, you just found out you got cheated on at the same time I did. Welcome to my world. Jason looked around, realizing he had no allies left. He looked at his mother, but she just shook her head. He looked at Greg, but Greg just sighed. Then, finally, he looked at me. We can fix this. I tilted my head. Fix what, Jason? His voice dropped. Us. And that? That was the funniest thing I'd heard all day. Jason saying, "We can fix this," was the biggest joke of the night. I let out a short, sharp laugh. Not because it was funny. Because it was insane. "Fix this?" I repeated. "Jason, do you even hear yourself?" Before he could respond, Greg groaned loudly and dragged a hand down his face. "Man, stop talking." Jason glared at him. "What's your problem?" Greg looked around the room, then exhaled. "You really want to fix things, Jason? Tell her the whole truth." "The whole truth?" Jason's face twitched. He shot Greg a warning look, but Greg was done. "Tell her. Or I will." The room went dead silent. My stomach twisted. "Tell me what?" Greg turned to me. "Look, I wasn't gonna say anything, but since everything's already out in the open," he took a deep breath. "Jason didn't just cheat with Brianna. He's been messing around with someone else too." I went cold. "Who?" I asked. Greg hesitated. "Who, Greg?" I repeated, my voice sharp. Greg glanced at Jason. Jason looked like he was about to pass out. And then, Greg said a name. A name that hit me like a brick to the chest. A name that made my legs go weak. Jessica. I swayed on my feet. Because Jessica wasn't some random woman. Jessica was my best friend. I heard a sharp gasp, my own mother. Brianna stumbled back like she was about to be sick. "No," she mumbled. "No, no, no," Jason finally snapped. "Damn it, Greg." Too late. The damage was done. The room exploded. People were losing their minds. Brianna looked like she had been stabbed. "You were with her too?" I couldn't even process it. I felt like I was outside of my own body. My best friend. My husband. I saw them together all the time. Jessica came to our house. We went on double dates. I called her when I needed advice. She was there for me when Jason and I had problems. And the whole time? She was one of the problems. My hands shook. My vision blurred. I thought I was going to pass out. I turned to Greg, desperate. "How long?" He sighed. "Since last year." Last year. That was it. That was the final hit. I sat down before I collapsed. Everything blurred. The voices in the room faded. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. Jason cheated with my cousin. Jason cheated with my best friend. Jason cheated for years. I had spent so long believing in him. Defending him. Loving him. And all along, he was destroying me behind my back. And now? I was done. But Jason? Jason still didn't know when to stop. "Look, I made mistakes," I laughed so hard it hurt. "Jason, you didn't just make mistakes. You made choices. Over and over again." Jason clenched his jaw. "We can work through this." "With who, Jason?" I snapped. "Your wife? Your side chick cousin? Or my best friend?" He flinched. Brianna let out a bitter laugh. "Wow. So I was just one of many? And you let me stand here looking stupid?" She turned to me. "You should have killed him when you had the chance." For once in my life, I agreed with Brianna. But Jason still wasn't done ruining lives. Because suddenly, his mother spoke. "That's enough." Her voice was shaky. Like she knew something worse was coming. And then she said, "Jason, tell them everything." Jason went still. Greg muttered, "Oh, shit." Brianna crossed her arms. "What now?" Jason's mother looked at him hard. "Tell them, Jason." Jason's hands curled into fists. "Mom, don't." My skin prickled. His mother turned to me. "Sweetheart," she said softly. "Do you remember last Christmas? When Jason said he had to go out of town for work?" I nodded slowly. "It wasn't work," she whispered. I swallowed. "Then what was it?" Jason's mother looked like she was about to cry. Then she said something that broke me all over again. "He was with someone else." Silence. Pure, suffocating silence. My heart pounded. "Who?" I asked. Jason's mother hesitated. Then, in a voice so soft I almost didn't hear it, she whispered the name. And I felt my entire soul leave my body. Jason's mother whispered the name. And the entire world stopped moving. My hands went cold. My chest felt tight. I had heard her wrong. I had to have heard her wrong. Who? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She swallowed hard. Cynthia. For a second, I didn't react. Because my brain refused to process what she had just said. Jason didn't just cheat with Brianna. Jason didn't just cheat with Jessica. Jason also cheated with Cynthia. My aunt. My mother's sister. The room erupted. Screaming. Actual screaming. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered on the floor. My mother looked like she was going to faint. Aunt Lisa staggered back like she had just been shot. Brianna? Brianna let out a broken, hysterical laugh. You slept with my mother? My mother? Jason's jaw clenched. It was a mistake. That was the wrong thing to say. Because suddenly, Aunt Lisa lunged. Jason barely dodged her slap. You filthy little son of a bitch. I couldn't breathe. Cynthia. My Aunt Cynthia. The woman who braided my hair when I was little. The woman who gave Jason career advice. The woman who stood next to my mother and helped plan my damn wedding. And now? She was another one of his women. I turned slowly to Jason. How long? He didn't answer. How long, Jason? His eyes flickered. A year. A year. I took a step back. Because I needed distance. From Jason. From this house. From this entire nightmare. But my mother? My mother wasn't backing away. She looked at Jason like he was a disease. You went after my sister? My own blood? Her voice was shaking with rage. You stood in my house, ate at my table, and did this? Jason had the nerve to look ashamed. But it was too late. Because someone wasn't in the room. Cynthia. I looked around. Where is she? No one answered. Then Aunt Denise whispered, she left an hour ago. She knew. She knew this was coming. And she ran. Brianna started shaking. This is beyond disgusting. You slept with me. You slept with her. You slept with my mom? Jason finally lost it. I know I fucked up, okay, he exploded. Too bad. Because now? Nobody cared. My voice was dead quiet. I want you out of my life. Jason froze. I looked him dead in the eyes. I want you gone. I never want to see you again. And then? I turned my back on him. That was the moment it truly ended. Because Jason knew it too. He had no excuses left. No lies to spin. He had destroyed everything. And now? He had nothing. My mother grabbed his arm. Get out, she said coldly. Jason swallowed. Now. And just like that? Jason ran. The aftermath was a mess. Brianna left in tears. My Aunt Lisa cursed Jason's entire bloodline. My mother was shaking so hard I had to sit with her for an hour just to calm her down. Cynthia? No one heard from her for weeks. And me? I filed for divorce the next day. Jason tried to reach out. Begging. Apologizing. Swearing he was going to therapy. I never responded. Brianna never spoke to her mother again. Jessica? She had the audacity to call me and say she was sorry. I blocked her. Cynthia? She never showed her face again. And Jason? Jason ended up alone. Because eventually, all the women in his life realized who he really was. It took time. I cried. I got angry. I mourned the life I thought I had. But then? I started living. I traveled. I reconnected with friends. I went to therapy. And slowly, I healed. Now I know my worth. And I will never let anyone take that from me again. Not a man. Not a cheater. Not a coward like Jason.